Hello everyone, it's Helena from Tone Society and welcome to the Hackers League workshop series. Today I am joined by Alexander Kirsanov, the Tone core dev, and we are actually going to talk about what's next for the Tone ecosystem and what updates are coming for the Tone developers. Alexander has given an introduction to the new FunC during the Gateway conference that has just happened. So I'm very happy to have you here today, Alexander. Please give a quick introduction of what's your role is about, what do you do in Tone, and then go ahead with the FunC news.
Hello, everyone. By the way, I don't see how many people are there. I don't see any cameras. I don't know whether I can talk to participants or not. Anyway.
Of course. We are live streamed and we already have more than 300 viewers. And if you're going to be having any questions or any comments during this live stream, we're going to have them on the comment section, and I'm going to be asking them live.
Okay. You are now studying Tone. You are now studying how to write smart contracts. You are now studying architecture, its asynchronous nature, and so on. I suppose that you are familiar with FunC and Tact, two mainstream programming languages for Tone currently. But as for today, there are now three languages, actually. On Tone Gateway in Dubai a week ago, I had a speech announcing a new language, announcing what's going to be next to FunC and its ecosystem. I don't know whether anybody watched this stream or not. So I'll give a brief info what happened there. I told that FunC currently, as a mainstream language for writing smart contracts in Tone, it's currently the main language. All mainstream contracts are written in FunC. All wallets, all jetons, all stable coins are written in FunC. But there is a big problem that it is very unusual and quite hard to newcomers. So if you are a JavaScript developer, Rust, Kotlin developer, its syntax is peculiar for you. It's quite uncommon. It has quite uncommon constructions. It has quite uncommon syntax, so that you unintentionally make mistakes if you come from popular languages. Why is it so? Because FunC is functional C. It is designed to be very low level, very close to TVM level. FunC encourages you to know lots about TVM, to know everything about compiler and its internals in order to make your contracts as effective as possible. It's very cool, it's awesome, but it's very hard for newcomers. Also, you probably know that FunC has never evolved. It was initially created by Dr. Nikolai Durov about 3 years ago, when the first version of Tone has been released. And as it was 3 years ago, the same it remains now. And not so long ago, I joined the Tone core team to change this vector. We decided to do something about it, to do something about the border, the level of how new people come into Tone. What we actually did, we took FunC, the whole FunC language and compiler. We created a fork and started developing this fork. So we decided not to develop FunC, which is now the same as visioned by Nikolai Durov. Instead, we decided to leave FunC untouched as it is, not to touch anything, but to develop a new language. On Tone Gateway, I announced that this work is now open. I've been working on it for several months, and not so long ago, I released the first public version of a new language to the public. Its name is Talk. If you Google, if you open documentation, or if you open Tone monorepo, you will see that a new language has been appeared. And what's the purpose of new language? The purpose is to make it to remain at the same low level, but to have more familiar syntax. Its syntax is more similar to TypeScript than to functional, to C language. You can find different snippets, you can find different use cases, you can find a whole list of how currently Talk FunC differs from FunC for now. And that's why when you use FunC, you can take some glance at a new language. Now it's the same low level as FunC, but it has just another syntax. So you can use it for literally the same tasks as you use FunC, but with less struggle, because it's more close to other languages. Of course, the goal of this process is to come up with a language that will become much more high level than it is now, but still be available to dig for a programmer to dig into its low levelness where needed. So it is we hope that in several months we will have something that will abstract you from cells, from slices, from manual packing bytes by hand, but on the contrary, that you operate data, that you operate structures, that you construct messages, and all the rest is done by the compiler. So the current release is the very first step. It's very close to FunC, but later it will have more and more differences, and FunC will remain untouched. So as a conclusion, now we have FunC and Tact. We have forked FunC, and we will develop it sometime later. For example, in several months, FunC will be considered legacy. We will onboard all newcomers onto a new language, onto Talk. And then we will have Talk and Tact. But unlike FunC, which is stable for years, Talk will become more high level, more similar to other languages. So the advice for people who start learning Tone is not to do anything for now, but just to keep in mind that if FunC is quite hard for you, we are working that to change this situation. I hope that we can have some dialogue, because I don't see any need to show examples to make anybody learn anything and so on. So I just entered this stream to announce that we have started developing FunC, developing a new language, a fork of FunC, that currently it's the first public version, and in several months it will be much more abstract but still low level.
Thank you so much. And I actually have a couple of questions here. So let's start with the most simple one. Where can developers learn more about Talk? Where can they read more details? Is there any documentation public, any resources? Where to find the developers' details?
It's very easy. docs.ton.org, the official documentation site. In the top menu, there are FunC, Talk, and Tact. When you enter Talk, it describes differences from FunC. So currently, it's assumed that you know FunC, that you are studying it or have been programmed on FunC for many years.
Oh, I see. Well,
Yeah.
let's get Alexander rejoined, but I'm just gonna say that if you have any questions or if you have anything to ask to Alexander, he is the core Tone developer, so he can actually answer with a lot of technical questions that you might have. Alexander, I hope that you are back in the live stream. Let's see. Well, these are the connectivity issues. That always happens. By the way, if you watch this workshop in the recording, or if you overall have some other questions not really related to FunC but related to Tone, Telegram development, and to the global hackathon, please join the hackathon chat, which is Hackathon X on Telegram, and feel free to ask your questions there. I'm actually reading the chat daily, so I make sure that we get all of them asked. Super, we are both back. You were cutting off a bit, Alex, so can you please answer the question about the docs and the resources for talk again, in case anyone also had the problems on the live stream?
It's very simple. docs.org, the official site of the documentation, and in the top menu there is a bullet languages with FunC, Talk, and Tact. And fifth, TVM assembly, but you don't need it anyway for now. So when you enter the documentation for Talk, it's assumed that you know FunC, that you used it or that you learn it. So it just describes differences with FunC, because now it's a fork of FunC with the same kernel, but a bit clearer syntax similar to TypeScript. Of course, later on, in several months, when we have structures, when we have differences in syntax, more rich type system, and so on, when we start hiding FunC from first glance, then the documentation will be not a migration guide, but true documentation. All snippets will be rewritten to Talk. All pages that land to FunC will land to Talk, and so on, because the way you write code at that moment will change. The way you write code now is very close to FunC. You do lots of things manually by hand. You pack cells, unpack cells, and so on. But our goal is to make this process much more comfortable. So leaving all beauty and complexity inside to come up with a more high-level language, but still optimal in gas consumption. So I won't allow any syntax or any sugar that increases gas consumption. It means that if you can do something manually more optimal than with the sugar, it's an invalid sugar and it's prohibited.
There is actually this exact question on the chat, which says, are you afraid that because of this, Talk will become as expensive for gas as Tact? Maybe it's not better to deprecate FunC.
Yeah, this is one of the goals, so that in order to construct a language, in order to do everything correctly in the upcoming months, I need to delve into lots of problems related to Talk, to contract writing, and so on, because I really have a big experience in languages, in writing compilers, and so on, but I have a rather small experience in Tone, in our ecosystem. So while changing the syntax is quite a simple thing relative to another, to go further, I will delve into what's happening to come up with the correct solution. So yes, I'm not afraid that it will become expensive, because the goal is to prohibit such constructions that can become expensive. The goal is to make it to remain below level, but at the same time to make it abstract, to find this border between low levelness and high levelness. FunC has quite an incorrect border. You cannot use FunC if you don't know TVM and assembler and so on. You can't use it in an optimal way. Tact has another border. It doesn't allow you to dig into intermediate representation, to dig into low levels. The goal is to find this correct border based on all previous experience and all future intentions.
Super, thank you. If anyone has any questions, just please drop them on the hackathon chat or on this YouTube or X live stream where you're watching the workshop today, the live talk today. Well, there was a question on Twitter that saying, so how a developer create a social app like Telegram using Talk, and what is the difference between Talk and Tact?
Both FunC, Talk, and Tact are languages for smart contracts. I hope you understand that smart contracts is like a backend, like in Web3. It isn't about front end. It isn't about some logic on your Web2 server and so on. It's about creating a backend. And when we compare Talk and Tact, currently they are very, very, very different. The same different as FunC and Tact. FunC is low level, very low level, very close to TVM. Tact is high level and business-oriented language. What does it mean? It means that you express your thoughts in another manner. You think about data, you think about messages and contracts. You don't dig into TVM representation most of the time. Now Talk and FunC are very, very close because it's just the start of the process. Later on, Talk will become more and more different from FunC, and sometime in the future, FunC will be considered legacy and deprecated. But it will be not soon, somewhere late in the next year. So if you are interested in how Talk will evolve, what features will be in it, and so on, you can sometimes look what's happening, what changes are made, and so on. But it's only for people who I'd say want to become public beta testers, because there will be breaking changes, there will be, of course, some probable bugs and so on. But it will reach the point when it will replace FunC and it will become much more user-friendly.
Thank you. And there is a question about the extensions. I'm not 100% sure what's UHM, so Alexander, maybe you get it. Are there any UHM verified extensions for FunC on VS Code?
Yeah, of course. I have created an extension for VS Code. It's available in VS Code Marketplace, and it's also open source. It has all basic features for everyday use, like syntax highlighting, autocomplete error highlighting, standard library discovery, and so on. And our plugin for IntelliJ, for IDEA-based IDEs, also support Talk syntax highlighting and autocomplete as well as FunC and Tact. So for everyday needs, you have all necessary equipment, like in FunC, for Talk also.
There is a question. There is a question from the same person asking about the GAS extensions. When will you add Boolean value support in Talk? That seems like a very dedicated Talk developer out there.
Yes, I will add support for Boolean, nullability, smart class, and so on in quite a near future. By the way, I am currently working on it, but I need to reconsider type system and so on. I hope you know why the Boolean type doesn't exist in FunC. the answer is because there is no Boolean type in TVM. In TVM, there are only integers, and Booleans are absent totally. To express some Boolean logics, now in FunC and currently in Talk, you use 0 for false and -1 for true. So bitwise operators work quite tricky, but nevertheless they work because true is -1, not 1. Currently, what I have done, I have forked FunC compiler. For example, it's the kernel of FunC compiler. I have implemented a very thin level of abstract syntax tree that uses this kernel. So what I'm going to do next is to make this kernel smaller and smaller, but my own additions bigger and bigger. So I need to rework everything considered to type system, to symbols registering, and so on. And after this work, I will be able to add Boolean types. Under the hood, they will be still -1 and 0, but from the user perspective, it will be a Boolean type. Same goes for nulls. Same goes for smart casts. When nulls appear, it will be necessary, and some other changes in the type system. So as for first public release, I had no chance and no time to do it, but currently I am working on it, and it's one of the goals, one of the steps to having structures.
Super. I think we have answered all of the questions. So let's just give 1 second for those that have had something to ask about or give a feedback about. And if there is no more questions, I think we are done. Hopefully the update here was interesting for those that wanted to learn more about the new FunC language that's coming. And hopefully it was get good opportunity to get to ask all of the questions that you had about Talk, and there was a couple of. Thank you so much, Alexander, for joining me. If anyone here wants to know more about Talk, just please go to Ton documentation. Yeah, I think we have one more question. Again about gas. In case, Alexander, you have already prepared that, do you have a gas comparison between using Talk and FunC in the same code?
Currently, since Talk is literally FunC but with another syntax, you can assume that gas consumption is the same. But even now, Talk offers you, for example, logical operators. In FunC, there are no logical operators, logical and, not, XOR, or and, or, and not. In Talk, there are. That's why when you if you rewrite code using logical operators, gas consumption can a bit change, but if the code is exactly the same, but with new syntax, the gas consumption is also equal.
And there is just a comment saying we need to use Jeton transactions without gas consumption, I think. Okay. Nice job, Alexander. You are getting the thanks from the audience. Thank you so much, guys, for joining and listening today. I hope you get a lot of fun while building your projects within the Hackers League Hackathon. If you have not yet submitted your project to the hackathon, just please go to eco.ton.org and you'll find the hackathon application right there. And I hope to see you in our next workshops, because we are still going to have 5 more workshops on different topics. And of course, I'm looking to see everyone that's watching us today as participants of the Global Hackers League Hackathon.